it's the final, ladies and gentlemen, of Nairobi region. I'm your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga.
Do women make better leaders than men?
I think they do.
I think they don't.
So let's debate.
Proposing this motion, we have Strathmore School.
And opposing the motion is Aga Khan High School.
Who will make better leaders?
Let's wait and see. Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Women make better leaders than men. My name is Joseph Fernandez, and I personally love women. I mean, why wouldn't I? I have a mother, a sister. They seem like great leaders to me. My mother has brought our family to where it is. My sister, she's there for me when I need her. She helps me when I can't on my own. Leadership is the action of leading a group of people or an organization, or rather, the ability to do so. Better basically means superior. I know to most of you, this motion seems like such a controversial topic, but it's not, trust me. Well, first of all, let me just give you an example of a few prominent women leaders of whom you might know. It's Angela Merkel of Germany, Ellen Stiff Johnson of Liberia. These are very prominent leaders, and the common factor is, yes, they are women. Sure, there are more men, presidents, or kings in the world. But really, is that what defines leadership? Is it? Is that what being a leader is? The fact that you're able to convince people to vote for you? I don't think so. Leadership means you're able to take control, take command, and lead people where you want them to go for their better good most of the time. There have been a few men leaders who, though leaders, have led the world into chaos. An example is our friend Hitler, who took part in the killing of 6 million Jews, one of the largest genocides in the world. I'd like to give you a few examples of why I think women make better leaders than men. Not because they can be presidents. Okay, you need to look at the fields in which women can lead, and which women do lead, and make an extraordinary impact to the world of today and the world of the past. Well, common knowledge, and according to Wikipedia and Oxford, women have innate skills, some which men have, some which men don't, but they try to develop, such as communication, emotion, empathy, and intelligence, most of all, intelligence. Women take pride in seeing people succeed. That's what makes them so admirable in their efforts towards changing this world. They're not focused on their own greatness, they're focused on the greatness of the team. Women have a great team spirit. If you've ever worked in a team with a woman, she's not so focused on the glory she will get, but on the team. And I admire that in women. But I'd like you to shift your gaze to a different side of the spectrum, towards women who don't lead countries, who don't lead establishments, who are not large leaders of big corporations. I'd like you to think of Wangari Maathai. She led Kenya towards environmental prowess in the world. It is known now because Wangari Maathai led Kenyans to believe that Kenya needs more trees. And did she succeed? I think so. Margaret Kenyatta, she leads Kenya behind the scenes. She is a very influential leader, and she touches the women of Kenya. Behind every great man, there is a woman. Thank you.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes to make your case.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by defining the motion of today, breaking it down. I'd like to reinforce the definition of a leader again. So a leader, very correctly as stated, is a person in control of a group or a country or any situation. One very other important definition that I feel that my proposition forgot to mention is better. Better is defined as being of higher standard, more suitable, pleasing, or effective than other people or things. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break down leadership further. Some of the attributes of leadership is honesty, innovation, creativity, ambition, teamwork. Did you notice something? I never mentioned male or female, because being male or female is not an attribute of leadership. Your gender does not define whether you're a leader. There is no stamp on anyone here telling them that a man is a leader and a woman is not. Let's start with something right in front of us. The judge is right in front of us. We have a female and a male at par. Both of them are equal. None is better than the other. They both deserve to be here. They are both equal. They're both leaders. My dear partner in proposition brought out the leadership by Angela Merkel in Germany. Let me give you another situation. In 2016, according to the World Bank, 1.9% of GDP growth was because of her. Same way, in America, Obama led 1.6% of GDP growth. These are very close figures. The reason I say this is because actually they're at par. They're almost very close to each other because they're equally as influential. The mere problem in the world today is that to uplift someone else, we have to deteriorate someone else or put them down, which I don't believe so. Why don't we work in a world where we uplift everybody, where males are uplifted and so are women? Ladies and gentlemen, talking about leadership in a more natural sense, from the clinical psychologist Bartlett, Miss Bartlett, in 1957, she defines both traits in men and women that define them as equally good leaders. Men naturally have more testosterone, which means they're more aggressive and stern. Being more aggressive and stern means that they can lead a crowd, they can convince a crowd, they can lead a team. Women, on the same hand, are very emotionally collected because they have a lot of oxytocin, which is because of the Darwin's theory of evolution. From a long age, they've been taking care of children, taking care of people, so they have a lot of oxytocin, a lot of emotion, which they put in their people, which guides them in their leadership. My fellow opposition brought up Wangari Maathai. She is a fantastic leader, but so is Martin Luther King, isn't he? Didn't he bring and change the rights for African Americans? He did. I stand here before you not to say that any is better than the other, but they are both equal. I oppose the motion today, rather, that women are not better leaders than men. In fact, they're equal. Thank you so much.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for your cross-examination.
My name is Mark Gitaka, and personally, I love women. I love women a lot, and did you know that in Africa, women were actually believed to be closer to our traditional gods because of their ability to give birth? The ability to bring forth life was so extraordinary that we saw them as close to the gods. Now let's bring it back a little further forward to the civil rights movement. Now, while I do acknowledge that Martin Luther King did lead the movement, Rosa Parks sparked that movement. If it wasn't for that woman's initial step into the pond of awful racism that was being faced by blacks, I don't think we would have had such a powerful civil rights movement. Now, as much as the opposition has said that your gender doesn't necessarily define whether you become a better leader, it does influence it. It sounds very rosy and nice if I tell you all that your gender doesn't matter, but let's be realistic. If gender did not matter as much as it actually does, then evolution would have left it behind. But as I'm sure is clear today, we still have gender, and that is for a reason. Now, a study by Dr. Winchester White from 1957, who was a very open feminist despite open ridicule and how uncommon male feminists were at the time, actually discovered that there are certain characteristics in women that make them much better leaders than men. For one, women are socialized from a young age to prefer personal growth rather than financial or physical attributable success. We can also see that our society places the burden on women to be more empathizing. And this is a very important trait for a leader because it makes the difference between starting a war and ending one. I think I'd also like to take us back to Africa with King Leopold II, who committed an even bigger genocide than Hitler. I'd like to say that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is a wonderful example of another woman leader from Africa. Before she took power, Liberia was a vicious place full of fighting, but she came, and with her upbringing as a woman who could empathize with people, who could connect emotionally to people, she was able to quell the fighting. All women are better leaders than men. There is no woman who we can look down on. Our mothers do so much for us. The women who perhaps cook at home, the women who help us when our noses are runny and we look embarrassing, the women who stoop to our level to explain to us that we simply cannot ignore our emotional side. Women have such a large role in society. And I think it's really unfair that we don't have as many examples of women leading. And why is that? Because of misogyny. Women are not only making great leaders, they have been making great leaders for a long time. Mekatilili Menza was one of the women lucky enough to escape the erasure of women's history. And I'd like to urge you all to ponder how much history about women being great leaders has been lost. I'm Mark Gitaka, and I genuinely believe that women do make better leaders.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for re-examination.
The quote was said that behind every successful man is a woman. That's true. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, Uhuru Kenyatta and Margaret Kenyatta, both are leaders, but are partners, not opponents. The only difference is a title. According to the Journal of Applied Psychology, aimed to add a more insight into the male versus female leadership qualities, they analyzed 99 different studies from 1962 to 2011, and you know what they discovered? That there is no correlation between gender and leadership. What does that say? Referring back to the motion, we're looking at leaders that are more suitable, more effective, and in control of a group, country, or situation. Yes, women are good leaders in politics, like Angela Merkel in Germany, but so is Nelson Mandela, the pioneer of equality against apartheid. So who is better? Neither. They're equally good. According to the SDG 6 goal by the United Nations, we support gender equality. Yes, it is to empower women, but does that mean bringing down men as well? This motion states to say that women are better leaders than men. But there have been instances that women have been better leaders, men have been better leaders, but at the end of the day, leadership is subjective, and both are susceptible to what make leaders fail. Things that make leaders fail: selfishness, greed, arrogance, refusal to adapt. None of these traits are labeled under specific genders. Who is to say that if women were given more opportunities to have leadership, they wouldn't take advantage of that? Yes, you have mentioned a few women leaders, but we have also mentioned male leaders that have been successful, then have failed. You have only mentioned women leaders that are successful. But if you're using the argument that they haven't been given opportunities, if given more opportunities, who is to say that they won't take advantage of that? I am here to oppose the motion that women are better, because to lift up a gender does not mean to tear another one down. Both are they're equally successful in certain aspects. As my previous partner had mentioned, yes, men are more dominant, and they have the ability to sway the crowd, to be persuasive. So yes, they're more successful in certain situations. Women have their attributes that make them more successful, but to say that one is better than the other is incorrect. Because you cannot gauge successfulness based off gender. It is subjective to the person who is leading. Thank you.
The proposers have been asked to suggest ways in which women in our society can be empowered to be better leaders. The opposers have been asked, do they think that women have the capacity of killing in order to get into positions of leadership? Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to answer the question.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Victory Wayaki, and I love women. I have been asked a question about how we can encourage women to be better leaders in the various fields. I believe at the root of it is honestly just encouraging women, or young girls for that matter, to lead from when they're young. And I believe from that we shall get a lot more of these high-quality leaders who women prove to be. I am glad that our opponents mentioned Margaret Kenyatta. Now, 5 years ago, her husband Uhuru Kenyatta was elected to the presidency of the Republic of Kenya. Now, in the 5 years since then, she has done more for maternal mortality rates than any male leader has done in this country, and I dare say, on the continent of Africa. Through her Beyond Zero initiative, she has saved the lives of thousands of mothers who would have been in danger of death when giving birth. But through her mobile clinics, she has saved lots of lives. Now, what are women better leaders at? That is a question that's probably on many of your minds. I believe that women are better leaders in the sense of representing what women want. Who understands women better than fellow women? I can't answer that question, for I'm a man, and I honestly don't understand everything about the woman, but I believe a woman would do that beautifully. Now, the Business Insider magazine has said that they honestly believe that women are better leaders because they tend to rise to leadership against the odds. Who would have thought that Hillary Clinton would have lost the American election last year but won? No one saw that coming. And had she risen to the position of the most powerful leader in the world, I believe she'd have proved us all wrong. A large reason why she lost, as it's quoted in numerous media outlets, is because men just didn't feel easy with a woman leader. But how about they give her a choice? I'd also like to mention a few more male dictators who are brutal. And I also want to ask our opponents, could you please name for us a few women dictators who have led mass genocide? And I honestly believe that there are hardly any. But how about Chairman Mao Zedong, who led the murder of about 20 million Chinese from 1940 to about 1970? How about Adolf Hitler, who my first colleague mentioned? How about Kim Jong-un and his father Kim Jong-il, who have oppressed millions of North Koreans and led them into a one-party state that is extremely close-minded? Let's come back home. Who here has heard of Mekatilili Wamenza? Who has heard of her? She led one of the most successful resistances to the colonialists on the African continent. And I believe that had a large part to do with her emotional connection with her people, and that in itself had a lot to do with her being a woman. I'm Victory Wayaki, and I still do believe that women make better leaders than men.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to answer your question.
For many of us, it seems that the Cold War between reality and imagination is still raging at full throttle. My name is Kitonga Mulandi, firmly standing before you to oppose the motion stating that women make better leaders than men. Firstly, to answer your question, you asked, give me scenarios whereby the women actually committed mass crime or including taking lives of others to get into power. Let me give you an example. 2 days ago, I read an article in the Daily Nation. Do you know what it stated? Woman kills child due to financial constraint. You have the nerve to come here and talk to me about mass crime while women are committing mass crime every day through abortion and through various means. You go right now and read an article in the Standard, and I bet you that you'll see that a woman has thrown away a child in a dustbin somewhere in Kibera or in one of the slums. Let me tell you something. Women respect men according to Statista.com. That's why it shows that's 90 out of 365 women in Congress are the ruling party of the Democrats, but still the speaker is Paul Ryan. Why is that? Because women are unsure of themselves. They do not believe that they can take the leading role and make swift, drastic decisions during times of needs. Let me give another example. According to the 2016 presidential elections in the United States, do you know how many women voted for Donald Trump? 2/3. And this is according to Cambridge Analytica, which is our renowned firm for political surveys. Secondly, I'll give you another example. Margaret Thatcher, she was called the Iron Lady, but Ronald Reagan was the brick wall. Ronald Reagan helped growing the economy at 4.9%. He mentioned Margaret Thatcher, but let me give you a more up-to-date example. Xi Jinping, who controls China, has the leading rate at 6.2% according to the World Bank. Simply, this shows that women basically outweigh men in terms of leadership skills because women are unable to make swift decisions during drastic times. This was seen as in the United Kingdom. Margaret Thatcher committed a crime of mass, a crime against humanity, whereby it was called the blood scandal. This is whereby the blood was swapped out and she was asked to make a drastic decision to tell the people, but she declined. This is shown as it killed 57,000 people in 1976, according to the British Health Council. Let me tell you something. This motion stating that women are better than men in terms of leadership skills is outrageous and should not be accepted in society despite its attractive appeal. Thank you very much.
Proposition, you have 1 minute to wrap up your case.
There is no war between reality and imagination. We embrace what we can see. And you know what I can see? When I look in this room, I see so many great leaders. I see independent leaders who were raised right. And it would be an honor to be led by them. We too support gender equality. And part of gender equality is accepting that there are some things certain genders excel at. We accept that men and women have their differences. And one of those differences is that women are better leaders. I think our examples clearly clarified that. Let us just accept that when it comes to leadership, a man may have his role in society, but that is a woman's role, and we should leave it to the women. Women have pushed society forward. How else would we have children? Women make this country. Women brought me here. A woman gave birth to me. I owe my life to a woman. Women are so amazing, and I think that we have robbed them of what they truly deserve. I'm Mark Gitaka, and I don't understand why the opposition doesn't seem to like women. Thank you so much.
Opposition, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot disagree that our proposition here is, in fact, the speaker that just came is a fantastic speaker. What I do disagree on, however, is his statements. Women make better leaders than men, to an extent. Yet this motion does not identify that. The common thing between women and men are that they're both human. They both make mistakes, they both excel, they both have a right to be a leader. There's something very interesting that the fellow team has brought up about how the woman gave him life. He could have not been born without his father either. Women or a man either, forget father. Women and men are partners when, even in that situation, they are partners in order for a child to be born. There are some leaders that are very influential. For example, the leading woman for IBM. She's very influential. But so are other leaders such as Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. There is no common leadership, cannot be defined by gender. It is defined by your attributes. What makes you better is how you lead yourself. It's not your gender. And with that, I'd like to end. Women do not make better leaders than men. And if so, it is only to an extent. Thank you.
I want to say first a big congratulations. It's not easy to make it to the finals. Then you get to the finals and you do an amazing job. So to both teams, good job. You should be proud of yourselves. I'll start with Strathmore. Joseph, you defined the terms very well. Talked about his mother and his sister who are great to him. He said that they are like his leaders. He also asked a very critical question. He said that leadership is being able to take command, and to him, he felt like actually women do that. He also gave very good examples of male leaders that have actually been bad. For example, Hitler also talked of team spirit that is brought out by women. The second proposer, Mark, brought up a very good point when he talked about Rosa Parks, who actually sparked the civil movement in the US. Also talked about gender influences, that it is the women that influence whatever change that happens. Also brought out the traits of women like empathy, and also showed their greatness is actually lost in history, because to him, he felt like men misogyny is what kills women that have done actually well in leadership in the past. The last one, brought out the issue of Margaret Kenyatta and the fact that she has been key in the Beyond Zero campaign, which was good. He also went ahead to say that she has saved more lives than any leader, actually including men in Africa, so that was good. Talked of dictatorship. I also like the fact that he brought it home again and talked about the Agiriama resistance and mentioned Mekatilili. And all history students know that Mekatilili played a key role when it came to the Agiriama resistance. So to the whole team, eloquent speakers, amazing mastery of content, you captured our emotion with the same point. We all love women. I thought that was brilliant.
Aga Khan, women make better leaders than men. Interesting angle that we focus on attribute. It's never about a man or a woman. And I think that was a very good and safe angle to debate with. So Minahil, that was commendable, that both genders are equal. The example that really hammered this was when you compared two countries led by a man and a woman, and you compare their GDP at equal rates. And that was commendable to really firm up your motion. Of course, you also talked about the biological structure of men, giving the example of the testosterone, and even women. So trying to tell us that, listen, we have different attributes that we can look at. And that was commendable for you. Excellent first speaker. Tracy, good referenced examples. That was commendable. And I think you also built in on the attributes when you started speaking about selfishness, dishonesty, and the likes. That they know gender and they are all equal. That was a good battle for you as a cross-examiner. Kitonga, good global tour. I think you took us around countries, and I think you tried to give us many submissions as you can within the 3 minutes. I think time was not on your end. Many submissions indeed. Now, you gave some statements that were quite dangerous. For example, you said, when you gave the example of Paul Ryan, the speaker in the US, and you said, women are not sure of themselves. That's a dangerous statement that you make there. And for that, that was noted. You just don't want to let it loose because that will be penalized. However, you did very well as that speaker as well, and that was commendable.